Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news, and Paul Pogba has finally spoken publicly about his future. We'll be talking about that in a moment, but also just a little bit of light relief here. I was reading something yesterday and I want to say, and people who've been watching the show for a few years will know, I'm a big fan of Andreas Pereira. Being a big fan of a player doesn't mean that you don't wake up and smell the coffee, and I don't believe he's good enough for United, and I don't think he's going to be good enough for United because he's 25 in January. But he's been talking recently, and I think he's a bit like Lingard. I think he's a really good player for the club to use because he's quite social media savvy. So we're seeing a lot of Pereira over the last few weeks compared to an Anthony Martial or a Dan James who actually do things on the pitch. And what he's saying is, at the moment, I'm very happy at Manchester United. It's my team, but all players look at other clubs they'd like to play for effectively. And he mentioned Real Madrid and Barcelona and even Bayern Munich. And I'll be absolutely blunt here. I've got as much chance of playing for Real Madrid as Andreas Pereira. Now, some people would say, well, you're retired. You're too old to play football now. But I'll tell you what, I've got as much chance of playing for Real Madrid as Andreas Pereira. He will never play at that level. And it's great to have a dream, and that's why I'm spinning it into a positive, because you should always have a dream, and who knows what will happen. Maybe it could happen. But in serious talk, I mean, it's just been ridiculed on social media. And I like Pereira, so I'm not ridiculing him. But what I'm saying is, it just shows you that sometimes you can have too much belief for your talent. You know, you don't get Phil Jones running around saying he's going to win the Ballon d'Or, because he knows he's not. He knows he's not. But Pereira, seriously, talking about being happy at United at the moment, but, you know, everyone thinks about playing for Barcelona or Real Madrid. I mean, this is really coming out of his mouth. Like, he's either going to do a mad one and turn into this amazing player, or he's got no concept of that. I don't even think he makes the bench for United next season. I've not seen enough from Pereira over the last 2 years to make me even think he's good enough to get in a Bournemouth side. So, you know, interesting what Pereira's belief is and reality and how they're going to meet. But I do like the player. I do believe that there was a point where there was something in him, but not anymore. Anyway, let's talk about Pogba talks. Pogba talks. And he does talk. He's talked out of his mouth. And he's basically come out and said that he's been out for a long time. It's been frustrating. You know, he's not really even been able to play football. And then when he came back, the virus hit. So he's just not been able to get going. But he's motivated to come back. And when he comes back, he wants to be the best. Effectively the best in the world, hopefully. Was there any discussion about Manchester United or where he wants to be the best? No, there wasn't. It was just Pogba about being the back and being the best. Which I think is always the issue. Whether you like Pogba or not, it's always the issue with Pogba. People who love him, like Rants, will say, well, no, he doesn't have to say it. He doesn't have to say that he's going to be the best for Manchester United and they're going to win in trophies. He doesn't have to do that. And some people would say, well, he never talks about his future at Manchester United or Manchester United being the place that he wants to be. It's always a general chat from Pogba. I don't know, at the end of the day, it's up to him, isn't it? He's never done it, so it might be a little bit odd if he did it now. To be honest, I think with Pogba, I think if he came out and said, I want to be the best and I want to win Premier League trophies at United over the next few years, people would say, oh, that's because he can't get his move now. He's just settling for second best. So, you know, whatever he says, he's going to get criticised. I think the thing that is interesting is that there's a couple of reports yesterday. Sky were talking, and I think it came from Di Marzio, who's obviously based in Italy, talking about Juventus again. And then there was a report, I think it was in Bleacher Report, about Manchester United are looking to give Pogba a second chance because they're realistic to the fact that they're not going to get the £100 million they want this summer. And that one got me thinking first, because Manchester United are in a difficult position with Paul Pogba, aren't they? Let's accept this. We are in a difficult position because we like to think we're in a strong position, but we're not. So Pogba is a Manchester United player. Take away what Pogba wants to do for a moment. Manchester United can keep him at the club. They can keep him at the club. They did that last summer. They can get him to sign a new contract. They can extend his contract by a year. So that's United's choice. They can sell him. But can they sell him if they can't get the price they want for him? No. Can they get him to sign a new contract if he doesn't want to? No. Are they in trouble if they don't sell him, don't get him to sign a new contract? Yes, because he will just stay where he is for another year, and then next summer his price will be half of what it is now because he will only have 1 year left on his contract if we do the year extension, which we would have to do. So United's situation is not good with Pogba. When you digest it, it's not. It isn't. People think Pogba's in the bad situation because he can't get the move that he wants. But Manchester United are in a worse situation when you actually think about it, because 1 year left on his contract, well, 2 years really when we extend it, but that's not long. United need to sell him or get him to sign a new contract. What if Pogba goes, well, I want to move, so sell me? And United go, well, we can't get the fee that we want, so we're not letting you go for cheap. And Pogba goes, fine. Will you sign a new contract, Paul? No. And then United next summer won't get the price they want anyway. So effectively, if you're following me with this, if United think Pogba's worth 100 million now, but Real Madrid, PSG, Juventus, Inter won't pay it, and then they can't sell him for 100 million, they can't sell him for 100 million next summer anyway, because Pogba won't sign a new contract and he'll only have a year left on his contract next summer. So next summer they'll only get 50. So what's the difference? You keep a player at a club because you can't get 100 million now, but you keep a player at the club who doesn't want to be here, and you've got the whole season of speculation. So that is what I've said for a long time. I don't want Pogba at United if he's not signing a new contract, because we're just going to get the upheaval and disruption from Raiola and the press for another year until he goes next summer, and that doesn't help us rebuild. So the Pogba situation is really, really strange, and United, how they handle it is very, very difficult, because if he won't sign a new contract, we've got a decision to make, and if we decide to keep him for another year, we're going to have another year like last year where, you know, he's not totally committed, and the upheaval. So we'll have to see what happens with that. What I'd also say about Pogba as well is what Di Marzio was saying, is that Pogba would be happy to return to Juventus. He's got friends and things there, and Juventus would like to do a swap deal with Manchester United. I don't know whether this gets asked enough. Why is this not? Why are we not focusing on the fact, why is Pogba happy to go back to Juventus? Like, he grew up at Manchester United. He played as part of our youth setup. Then he went to Juventus, then he came back. Why is he more happy to go to Juventus than stay at Manchester United? I understand that from Mourinho and the Mourinho days, but Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is a player that is a man that coached Pogba when he was in the youth setup. The team is stepping forward. There's a lot of young players there like Martial and Rashford. Hopefully Sancho comes in. Bruno Fernandes. Fantastic support. Fantastic club. Why is Pogba happy to go to Juventus and leave Manchester United? Why is he happy to go back to a club that, to be honest with you, they're not going to win the Champions League? All right, they're going to win Serie A, but he's done that. I understand why Pogba wants to go to Real Madrid. I've seen that happen before with Van Nistelrooy and Ronaldo and Beckham. But I don't understand why Pogba would be happy to go to Juventus. Are we that bad? Is he that unhappy here? And I don't think people look at that. I think they go, oh, Juventus and Real Madrid want Pogba. But actually, why is he so happy to go back to Juventus over United? And when we've surely got a project here now. Interesting. Let's see what happens on that. A more interesting story today, though. Upamecano versus Konate. They're both centre-backs for RB Leipzig. Now, interestingly, Sky Sports yesterday was saying that Upamecano will stay at RB Leipzig for another year. However, further stories were coming out from Bild in Germany that Upamecano and RB Leipzig have reduced his fee now to 40 million euros, which is about 34 million pounds. 34 million pounds for Upamecano, who's 21 and considered to be one of the best centre-backs in Europe, young centre-backs, is a very, very good deal, financial crash or not. So what's the truth? Is he going to stay at RB Leipzig for another year? He's only got 1 year left on his contract, so he'd have to be signing an extension. Or is he available for a cheap price this summer? But, interestingly, Manchester United have been linked to Ibrahim Konate, again, who is right-sided centre-back for RB Leipzig. You're going to see where I'm going here. So Upamecano predominantly plays left-sided centre-back, which is what Harry Maguire does for us. Konate plays right-sided centre-back. Upamecano and Konate are both young centre-backs at RB Leipzig and considered to be two of the best young centre-backs in world football at the moment. Who is the better player if you're going to go for either? Because I think forget Koulibaly at 90 million, and I think United would be better off buying a player like a Konate or an Upamecano who is at RB Leipzig, who, a bit like Bruno, a bit like Harry Maguire, when you move to Manchester United, it's a step up, but you've already shown that star quality to be a top-class player. So I would rather we went for that sort of player. Who you go for between Konate and Upamecano? Well, look, we're probably going to be doing a few watch-alongs, certainly on my channel, Mark Goldbridge, That's Football, when Bundesliga comes back in the next week or two. We'll probably do Sancho watch-alongs on here, like we did for Zlatan. We'll call it Sancho Watch. So there will be opportunities to see the Bundesliga a little bit more than maybe people have in the past. Konate is 6'4", Upamecano is 6'1". Konate is better in the air. Konate is probably... It's difficult between Upamecano and Konate to see who's the better tackler. I'd say Upamecano's technically better on the ball and reads the game a little bit better, but some people would disagree with me with that. So what you're ultimately getting here is very, very decent argument about two very decent centre-backs. I would lean towards, surprisingly, Konate, because he's a right-sided centre-back, he's better in the air, and he's as quick, if not quicker, than Upamecano, and I think that's very important next to Harry Maguire. So look, I think Arsenal want Upamecano, a lot of United fans want Upamecano, probably because they don't know a lot about Ibrahim Konate. But actually, there's not a lot between them, and some people would say Konate is better. I don't think it's a case of who's better. I think it's that there are slight differences in their game, and I think Konate would suit United better. So, you know, maybe he's the centre-back that Manchester United should be looking at. But watch the space on that, and maybe watch some Bundesliga games when they come back. What else? Bild also, German again. They're talking about Kai Havertz, and they also mentioned Upamecano as well. And they basically, I didn't know Bayern Munich were linked to Upamecano, but I think Bayern Munich, as I've said before, they are a bit like Celtic in Scotland, hoover up the talent within the league that they dominate, and that's what Bayern Munich have done for years. So if there is a player like a Timo Werner or a Kai Havertz or an Upamecano or something like that, you would expect them to go to Bayern Munich because that's what normally happens. However, Bild are saying that that Bayern Munich have cooled their interest in Kai Havertz and Upamecano, which has opened the door to other clubs. Now, Manchester United obviously have been linked to Upamecano, and we've been linked to Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz has the potential to be one of the best players in the world over the next 5 years in that attacking midfield position. Do I think Manchester United are in for him? No. Do I think he would come to Manchester United? No. I still think he will go to Bayern Munich, and if not there, I think he'll go to Real Madrid. Whether Real Madrid is too soon for him, I don't know. I think Manchester United would be a good suit. I think he would suit the Premier League really well, but I ultimately think he will go to Bayern Munich. But it is odd that it's coming from a German outlet that Bayern Munich have cooled their interest in him. He's looking to move this summer away from Bayer Leverkusen. Again, another Bundesliga player we can keep an eye on over the next few weeks when the games are coming on. But if you don't know much about Havertz and you're saying you'd rather take Grealish, Havertz is probably going to be more around, or would have been more around the James Maddison fee. I think probably around 80 million they would look for. He's that good a talent. But he's miles better than Grealish. Like, Grealish will not be one of the world's best midfielders. He will not. He will be a very good midfielder, and he is a very good midfielder. But he's 4 or 5 years older than Kai Havertz, and Kai Havertz has got the ability to be one of the world's best centre-attacking midfielders. Do we need a player like that? Well, people would say, well, no, we don't need a player like that. We've got Bruno. But then again, Grealish plays that position as well. This would be a Pogba replacement. So it all goes back to Pogba again. I think Grealish, Havertz, Maddison, any other attacking midfielder or midfielder that you're looking at, they don't come in unless Pogba goes. I think the only sort of midfielder we'll look at is a centre defensive midfielder if Pogba stays, which apparently we're going to look at anyway. But interesting times ahead, I think. Very interesting times ahead. And I just think that... well, look, I've said it on Twitter, so I'll say it here now. We all know that there is a lot of debate about whether the Premier League should come back, and we know that the Bundesliga is coming back. And I think when the Bundesliga comes back, people will really want the Premier League back, because they'll be like, oh, it can be done, if it's done. But I am getting to the point now where I think it's become... Not necessarily political, but it's starting to become very divisive and corrosive as an argument about whether football should come back or not. And I woke up this morning and I basically just had this feeling about it, and that is this, and I'm very surprised by it. I think we're at a point now, and I'm not saying either of these two things will happen, but I feel there's two options now that I am just going to sort of say. One, we finish the season however we do it, whether it's June, July, August, we make a pact that we're going to finish this season, whenever it is. And I would prefer that to be my number one choice. And if we can't do that, two, we void the season and we hand the title to Liverpool and we relegate the teams in the bottom three. Now, people are going to say straight away that's really harsh, but I'm fed up of the let's cancel the season, everyone gets another go next year, Liverpool don't win the league, and everyone who should have been relegated gets another chance and another chance to save money. What happens to the Championship clubs who deserve to come up? Oh, let's have a 22 or 23 team league. Bollocks. It's absolute nonsense. Tough decisions need to be made on this. We either bring the football back, or we void it, we hand the title to Liverpool because they're going to win it anyway, and we relegate the bottom 3. Now, people say that's going to open up all sorts of legal minefields. Of course it is. But following on from what I said last night, there are teams at the bottom of the Premier League who are trying to not restart the league because they don't want to play at neutral grounds, because basically they don't want to get relegated. Well, I'll tell you what, if you are blocking football coming back because of your pockets, then fine, let's block it, let's void it, and you're going down anyway in the bottom 3. Because I just think that's harsh, but we're going to get absolutely dragged down into a sort of all arguments. The easiest thing is to come back and finish the league and play it at neutral grounds. And we're playing at neutral grounds for safety reasons, so that people don't congregate outside the grounds. But if people are going to put barriers up, it's ridiculous, because you've got people putting up barriers up quite rightly because they're worried about health concerns. But then you've got people jumping on that bandwagon when really they're going, if we get it cancelled, we've got another year in the Premier League, which means 200 million quid. So that's just how I feel about it at the moment. I think it's getting too argumentative and too corrosive. And look, I don't want Liverpool to win the league, but if we can't bring the football back, give them the league and relegate the bottom 3. They'll soon all at the bottom start trying to find a solution then. And I think that's what we want. We need all teams in the Premier League to try and find a solution instead of thinking about an opportunity to stay in the Premier League and make a load of money when they should get relegated because you're not good enough to be in the league. Anyway, controversial, there you go. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video. I do think that this situation is getting very difficult for United around Pogba, by the way. How do you solve that situation? People would say get him to sign a new contract, but if he doesn't sign it and sits on his arse for another year, we'll lose him for next to nothing next summer. So maybe we have to take a lower price this summer if he refuses to sign the new contract. I think it's going to get difficult for United. Thanks for watching. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new, and we'll be back at 8 o'clock tonight as usual. And this afternoon, it's the big one. Mark Goldbridge, That's Football. It's Man United versus Man City. Top of the table clash, November the 5th in my FIFA career mode. Check it out. Speak to you soon.